Well, listening to that, I hope, was the Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who joins me now. Good evening to you. Look, well, Labour has always called for the reversal of the 45p policy. You must be applauding the government tonight.
Well, of course, it's welcome that they've reversed this, but so much damage has already been done, Mark, because what we saw when the Chancellor stood up to give his so-called mini-budget and in the days afterwards was huge volatility in financial markets and a big spike in the costs of government borrowing, but also in the borrowing costs for ordinary families, particularly through mortgages. And anybody who is coming to the end of a fixed-rate mortgage deal or trying to get on the housing ladder for the first time is finding that those costs are going up and up, in some cases hundreds of pounds a month. And this is a crisis that was created in Downing Street, but it is a price being paid by ordinary working families the length and breadth of this country.
Do you think he should be sacked for this financial fiasco, as you put it, that he's caused?
Well, Kwasi Kwarteng is now the third Conservative Chancellor in this year. I don't think we need another Conservative Chancellor. I think we need a Labour government. And increasingly, the Labour Party are rightly seen as the party both of fiscal responsibility and of social justice. I've been very clear that there will be nothing in the next Labour manifesto that isn't fully funded and fully costed. A huge difference from what we see from this Conservative government.
Right, so if it was your U-turn on your first budget or mini-budget that ended like this, would you expect to be sacked?
Well, look, I would expect that, working with Keir Starmer, that we would deliver a budget based on the people's priorities. And that is not tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country. Millions of people are struggling with the rising cost of living, energy bills, food prices, now higher mortgage rates as well. And the Chancellor's trickle-down economics just does not speak to the concerns of families, businesses and pensioners around the country. And it's not just the 45p rate. It's the new rules on bankers' bonuses. It's the prioritisation of tax cuts for the biggest businesses. It's the changes on stamp duty. A whole range of things. Unfunded tax cuts paid in the end by my constituents in Leeds West through higher borrowing by government and higher mortgage rates for families.
Well, talking of borrowing, I mean, Labour says it's all about credibility, but you have only a year or so, a couple of years, to persuade the public that you can be trusted with the economy.
Well, before I became a Member of Parliament, I worked at the Bank of England for many years. And I think that Labour's respect for economic institutions, whether that's the Bank of England, the Treasury, the Office for Budget Responsibility, does give us a credibility that, frankly, this government has lost. Credibility is hard won, but easily lost. And this government is losing credibility, both in financial markets, which is really important when it comes to inflation and borrowing costs, but is also losing credibility with the British people who are sick and tired of broken promises about economic growth with support for the cost of living. Living standards have got worse, public services have got worse, and our public finances are in tatters. That is the result of 12 years of Conservative government.
But you'll be borrowing as well. I mean, on energy support, you're now committing to support householders until, I think, 2024, same as the government. Is that right?
Yes, but the difference between...
You know, I know what you're going to say, the windfall tax, but your original spending was 29 billion, and now, presumably, it's going to be what the government is expecting, which is over 100 billion. Where will that be financed from other than a lot of borrowing?
Well, there are tens of billions of pounds that the government is leaving on the table in what could be raised in windfall tax on the huge profits that energy companies are making. The government, by leaving all that money on the table, is just adding to borrowing costs and adding to government debt. It doesn't have to be that way. If we got our fair share from the energy giants who, on the back of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, are making huge amounts of money, then we wouldn't have to stack so much on the nation's credit card. But that's why it's the responsible thing to do.
Well, the windfall
tax. That windfall tax.
Sorry to interrupt you. The windfall tax is only going to be a small part, isn't it, of the borrowing you're going to require. You've also got your commitments on green energy, which work out, according to one economist I was reading today, 200 billion over the next 8 years by 2030.
Well, let me say a couple of things on that. First of all, of course, we've got to help people through the cost of living crisis. And that's why I've been saying since, well, for months now, that the government need to do more to help people with rising energy bills. That is not what financial markets have a problem with. What financial markets have a problem with is unfunded tax cuts that last for years after the cost of living crisis hopefully goes away. That is why financial markets reacted not to the energy package, but to the unfunded scale of tax giveaways at the mini budget a week and a half ago. And the other thing on the Green Prosperity Plan, everybody knows that there's a world of difference between investing in things that can boost our long-term productivity and growth rate by creating jobs and ensuring that Britain can be global leaders, world leaders in the industries of the future, from hydrogen to carbon capture and storage to electric vehicles, very different from unfunded tax giveaways. They will be investments that the British people would have a stake in and would get a return on that investment, growth from all communities in our country rather than the failed trickle-down economics of this Tory government.
All right, Rachel Reeves, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.